Hi everyone! Today I'm going to show you how I set up a grading grid that will change colors with all the scores and the grades that my kids get. So when I'm doing report cards, it's really easy to see where everyone's at. So just for an example, in my district we grade on a 1, 2, 3, or 4 scale. So I set up the units. Let's say they got a 1 on the first unit and maybe 2s, and then but they started doing well, and so they got some 3s. So it shows the mode, the average of the scores, and everything's color coded, so at a glance I could see where this student was at when I'm grading those standards. So I'm going to show you how to set it up and how to change all the formatting and enter in all the functions to make it work for you. So what you want to do is just go to a Google Sheets, and I like to name it with the year and the grading period, so March 2025, and then I leave the top kind of open so that I can title it, because when I print it I want to make sure that I know what it is. And then I'll start down, skip a row, and I like to highlight all the rows that I'm going to be using and just make them a color. So doing black like that. That's just for printing. When it's printed, it'll be easier to see what's going on. And then up here, this is just going to be my table. So I'm going to say the question or the standard or the test or whatever you're going to put here. And then I like to keep track of the number of students that are below standard. So I'll say below standard. And then over here, and I kind of make this one a different color usually. So I'll insert a little paint drop down. I like the gray over the green little spot there. That just catches my eye, so I know it's not a grade. And then I'll put the kids' names down here below. So let's put in, how about Amelia, Bedelia, and Clifford, and the pigeon, and Pete the cat. There. Okay. And then up here, I'm going to put whatever the standard I'm grading on or the test that I gave. So since I said this was math, I'll say Unit 1 test. Maybe in Unit 2 we have a quiz and then a test. Sometimes I'll also put up the standards that we have instead. Whatever my report card says, I want to see that grade. And so maybe I'll put, operations, and maybe I'll put measurement and data for Unit 1. So the way my district does it is the tests are sorted out by what standard they're doing on the different questions. So there we go. And then I'm going to change the ending over here to be the average of all the scores, and then the mode. So I like to see things averaged out, but I found that doesn't really give me a good overall view of a student, especially if they have a wide range of scores, so or any outliers. So I really like to do the mode as well, so I'll show you how that looks different. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to check and see for the standards. They can either get a 1, 2, 3, or 4. They can be at grade level, approaching grade level, below, or above. And so I'm going to select all those spots, and actually I would select all of them even if I don't have a student in my class, because then it's easy to add someone. And I right click, and then I go down to the bottom, view more cell actions, and I want to do conditional formatting. And that opens up this box over here, and you can see which cells are being formatted. So it's E5 right here, number 5, all the way through F16. So those are the ones that will be affected by this. And so I do the colors red, yellow, green, and blue to match. So for green, that's our 3 if it's at standard. So then I'll choose the drop-down box, and I'll say if the value is equal to, and then I'll say 3. So if I type a 3 into that box, it'll change it green. Then I'll say done. Then I want to add another rule. It's still the same cells, but this time I want to do for the red for 1. So I'll say if the value is equal to 1. then I'll say done. And I'll keep doing this for all the 4 standards that we have. So I'll do yellow for 2, and you can do text as well if you need to for like some of the reading or writing ones. In my district have letters, and so we assign them a grade level standard for the letters. So then I'll just type in the letter of the level instead. But I want to say if it's equal to a 2. And then the last one, if they're above grade level, they get to be blue. And I'll say equal to a 4. Then I say done. Now, anytime I click on conditional formatting on any of these cells, it's going to show me what the rules are. So let's say Amelia Bedelia got a 2. Clifford got a 3 or 2 as well. Pigeon got a 3, but poor Pete, he got a 1. So see how the colors change. I don't like it how they go over to the side though, so I'm going to select all the boxes and I'm going to make it in the middle, and I'm going to make it in the middle. So it's just easier, a preference for me to see. You can also change up here. Sometimes I like to make these bold, and the student names you can make bold too, whatever helps you kind of see it easier. So I'm going to change these into the middle as well. When I'm ready to do, let's say maybe they did really great, and oh, there we go, Pete got a really great score. On the unit tests, maybe what I do to make it easier to be able to use the average in the mode is I do the same thing. I'll just make it a 1, 2, 3, or 4 standard. But let's say you want to give them actual grades. So maybe your tests are out of 20 points, but you want to see what kind of standard it would be. So I'm going to go down to the conditional formatting. And so now instead of saying if it's a 3, they're at standard, I'm going to say if the value is between, and then I start with 16 to 20. If they get 16 points, 17, 18, 19, or 20 points, I'll enter that score in, and then it will turn green to show me they're at grade level. And so I can do that for all the different colors in the standards. So a 2 would be between 10 and 15. Oops, I said before. So it's between 10 and 15. So you can't overlap it. You can't say 216 here. It has to be their own thing, or else it's going to do whatever rule is first. So if you said this was between 10 and 16, since the green one is first in the rules, it'll always turn it green. So you want to make sure that you don't have any overlaps in your scores. And then if the score is between, or for the last one, I would say less than or equal to 9. So anything lower than 9 will be a red. And then we can't get above because I don't give tests that are different from my grade level. So there's 1, 2s, or 3s there. But that way now it can show a score. So let's say she got a 12, he got 10, he got 20, and he got 5. Then I can easily see by the color bands what kind of tests they got, kind of scores and levels. So they would be a 1, a 3, and a 2. And so then I can easily see how it's going. Something that I like to do, because it's easy for me to see these scores, I like to list it out like that on the district forms that I submit. But when I'm ready to do my report cards, if there's different scores here, it's really hard to average it out or make the mode and show which one is the most common score. So I'll change all of these to be 1, 2, 3, or 4. So I'll just make the whole list 1, 2, 3, or 4, just like this one, so that I can easily see what their scores are. So let me do that really quick. So how I'm going to do that easily is I'm just going to click these off, the ones that were for the actual scores, and then I'm just going to change the cell values. So it's going to be from B5 to G16. So if I click the one I've already done, I'm just going to change the letters B5 to G16, like that. Then that will be for all the things that are selected. So let me do that really quick. Okay, I've changed the formatting for these cells so you can see how the colors went away. But I remember this was a 2, this was a 2, this was a 3, and this was a 1. So there I can change it. Okay, so I'm ready to show how this score averages out. So I'm going to click the box that I want to make the average into, and I'm going to say Insert Function. And there's some common functions up here, or there's a list of all the functions that you could do. So I'm going to choose Average, and then it's waiting to tell me which cells it's going to average out. So I'm going to just select all the cells that could have a grade or will have a grade, and then I'm going to hit Enter. So now it's showing me the average of the grades that I've input, and then it shows me up here which cells are being averaged out. But I want all of these to be averaged out, so I'm going to grab this corner and I'm just going to pull it down to all the students that I could have. So you can see this one's being averaged for B6 through G6, so that's for Clifford's row. And then the same, this one is B7 through G7 for the pigeon, and B8 through G8. These ones are also doing their respective rows, but since there's no data in there, it just has this weird little symbol showing you there's nothing for it to average out. I also don't like all these decimal points there, so I'm going to just select all of these, and I'm going to go up to Format, and I'm going to say Number. It's automatically doing it, but I just want it to be a number now, and now it'll just be to 2 decimal points, so that's just easier for me to read, and I think it looks cleaner. I also want these to be color-coded. So again, I want to be able to look quickly and see, are my students at standard, below, approaching, or above standard? So I'm going to add some conditional formatting again. But this time I need to make sure that my range is matching the decimal points as well. So let's start with the below standard. So if a student is averaged out to be between, so I need to do between 0, which nobody would ever be a 0 because they're always going to have a 1, and then I'm going to go to 1.5 because that's going to be, above a 1, but it's going to be less than a 2, so I want it to be still red if they're a 1.5. And then I'll say done. Then I'm going to add another rule that is for the approaching standard friends, so I'm going to say between again. But this time I need to cover the 1.6 now, and then to the 2.5. So that way I'm covering all the decimal points. So anybody who's at a 2, but has maybe they're 2.2, I still think they're approaching standard. But if they are a 1.6, almost a 1.7, then I think that's closer to a 2 than it is to a 1. So it just uses the basic rounding rules, but you need to make sure to cover any of your decimal points so that they'll get color-coded as well. So this one would need to be a 2.6 to a 3.5. Done. And then for the above grade level, you can just say greater than or equal to 3.6. So if it's averaged out to that, then they'll get to be blue. So that's how I do that for this one. The conditional formatting for the mode would be the same. So what you need to do though is you need to insert a function, but the mode is not one of the common ones, so you need to go to all and you need to scroll down to the M's. And if I remember, there's a couple different modes. So you want just this mode, the regular one, the most commonly occurring value in the data. And then again, it's going to ask you for which cells to look at. So don't choose the average one, just choose the one that's going to be graded. And then again, hit enter. And then I'm going to grab this again, and I'm just going to pull it down for all the students. So now they have the same function for each of their rows. And then I'm going to, oops, I want to do that again. make those into the color-coded as well. This one's easier because mode is just pulling the most common number, so it's not going to have the decimal points. So I could really just do the conditional formatting that I had over here. So let me do that really quick. There we go. So now these will turn a color as well, and when I'm ready to go, I have all my scores in there, then it'll be easy to see what's going on. So what I want to make sure though is that I have all my scores in before I print or before I want to show what's going to happen on my report card. So you can see, you know, for Pete the Cat, his mode is a 1. That means he got the most ones, but he did get this 4 over here, so his average is at a 2. So then I can decide, comparing this data, I think that he's probably mostly a 1. He's below grade level for this part of the year in this subject. So it just kind of shows the differences about what's going to happen. These other ones, I made them pretty similar, so they match up. But if there's a discrepancy because there's some big outlier over here, then you can make a decision based on that. But it's really quick and easy to see what's going on with the color coding there. Let me say this one thing too. The number of students below, sometimes you can make a function, but I find it really complicated, so I like to just do this manually. I'll go through and I'll count either all the yellows and reds because they're below grade level, or maybe just the reds if that's what I'm concerned about. Maybe it's okay in this standard or subject for them to still be approaching and not have mastered it yet. If it's something that, you know, I've just introduced, I'm going to reteach it or something. So let's say I'm going to do yellows and reds. So there's 4 students below, or I'm sorry, 3 students below, 3 students below, 3, 3, and 2. So then I'm ready now to print. So I could see if I have a class of 4 students and 3 of them are below, that's something I probably need to reteach. Maybe that was on me. I didn't get it, you know, the way I needed to. When I'm ready to print, I'm going to select all the boxes that I want to print. So usually I make a lot of extras in case, again, I need to add a student in who's moved in or something. So I'm only going to select the ones I want to print. And then when I come down to the print, oops, let me move that out of the way. It's going to give me a prompt to print the current sheet or the selected cells. That way then I can just print what I want to print. I can also choose if I need it portrait or landscape and how I want to do it. Do I want to fit to the width of the page or the height of the page? Those kind of things. So since I only have 4 students in this class, it's not that hard. But usually I try and get it on a single page. So it's just easy to flip through for math when I'm doing those scores and so on. And then when you hit next, it'll just go to your printing ability there. So that's how I mostly do it. If you want to, you can name this tab. So I'm going to name it Math. And then you can add a new tab. So maybe I'll have writing and reading and behavior. So I like to just start off with what I had. So I'm going to just take the math and copy and paste it over to all the other tabs, so I don't have to do that for all my students every time. So let me do that really quick. Okay, so when I'm ready to do all of that, you can see, okay, so I'll need to change up here. This one's reading. I just do that so when I print it, it'll be ready to go. I want to make sure that these things are changed to my reading. You know, obviously I don't have any students below yet because I don't have any scores, so I just want to get rid of all of these things. So I don't want to get rid of my functions because they're correct for the rows, but I can just go up here and I can go to Edit, Delete, and I'm just deleting the values. That means I'm deleting what is typed into those boxes. So now I can start over. So you can see, okay, the error, there's nothing for it to average, but you can see up here the function is still doing row 5, all the grades from B to G. It'll average them out when I'm ready to go. So I want to do that and make sure that it's easy for me to do that. So now I can do the same thing. I like to take all my reading scores and change them into a 1, 2, 3, or 4 so I can get the average and the mode scores. So That's how I like to do it. But if you don't really care about averaging or having the mode there, you can again change it to the values. So like in the primary grades, how many letters or sight words do they know? If you want to put in the number of sight words they know and then color code it to being at a 1, 2, 3, or 4 standard, you can do that like we did before. There's one more thing I wanted to show you. So for some things that maybe don't have a score like this, real quick, let me just get rid of this. All right, for some things that don't have a score, maybe you just want to see it, like raising hands and finishing work, unpacking in the morning, whatever your behaviors are that you're tracking, you know, for your report card or whatever you want to share with the parents. I don't really want to give them a grade for that. So you could say 1, 2, 3, or 4, you could average it all out, but I find it easier to just say, do I see it or not? So I'm going to change the conditional formatting to be on this one. I'm just going to say, delete all these, then I'm going to change this one, and I'm going to say, is it empty? If it's empty, turn it green. That is easier for me for behaviors because I'm coming in with the assumption that most kids are going to be doing this. So they are at standard, that's the green color, that signals to me they are mastering this skill or they've done it. Then I'm going to say, if it is not empty, turn it red. That to me is my signal. They're not doing this. I need to make a comment about it or, you know, do something about it. So I don't really need to have averages or modes here because that's not very helpful to me. So I could just delete these columns. So what would happen here is you could say Amelia Bedelia does not raise her hand. So I could just put anything in this cell and then it will turn it red. Maybe I want to say Clifford is not finishing his work, but so he hasn't turned in, you know, 10 of his assignments. So I could put 10 missing assignments. It'll still turn it red. And maybe the pigeon has unpacked, and maybe I could do a percentage. Only 50% of the days. So I'm going to do a percentage. I just know that's what that is. Anything that I put into these boxes is going to turn it red, because it just means it's not empty. If I do this as well, it's easy to see really quick who I need to talk to. Maybe Pete the cat hasn't finished one missing assignment, so he's still going to be a red, but then I can see really quickly who to be concerned about and who not to be concerned about when I was sharing it with the parents. Let's say we've had 12 assignments. Okay, now I know, okay, I really need to help and have Clifford get on board. Pete the cat maybe just was absent one day, something like that. So now, because I'm doing it this way, I can have the computer calculate it for me. So I can put in a function here to count how many boxes are red. So I'm going to say insert function. There is a count here, but that counts the values in the boxes. And maybe some of the boxes I'm just going to mark off. So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to go back up to count. And there's one that says count A, the number of values in the data set. So I'm just counting how many boxes have something in them. So I'm going to say count A, then I'm going to click all the boxes that I want, hit enter, and now it shows me one person has a mark here. So I could put that in for all of these, just like I did before. So you can see 2 students haven't finished all their work, 1 person is having trouble unpacking, and then all these have zeros, and I could put in whatever I need to. I can also change it to be for each student. So on the side over here, maybe instead I will make this one be the number per student. So what that means is I'm going to take away this formatting by just changing it to F instead. There we go. So now the row that I have doesn't have any formatting. And I like to change it gray so it matches the other one. So I know it's not really a grade, it's just helping me count. And then I'm going to click this box and add in the same function that I did before. So it should kind of be saved. Yep, so it saves it over here. So I'm going to say count A. Because remember, I just want to count how many values I have, not what they are, because they might be different. And then I want to count for the student. So I'm going to select all the row and hit enter. And then I'm going to come down over here and pull it down so it's all that. So right now you can see each of the students has one thing. But let's say the pigeon is really having a hard time, so he's missing 5 out of 12 assignments, he's not raising his hand, and now he has 3 of the behaviors that he needs to work on. So again, I could go down really quick and see, wow, okay, I need to really focus in on the pigeon, or wow, I need to really teach about finishing up work and how to be, managing our time more wisely, or I need to give some strategies or something like that. So this is just basically to make it easier for you to see when you have, 25 kids instead of 4 in your class. So I really like to use it for that. There's one more. If I was going to do it for the screener. So we do a letter screener. It's just a spelling test that shows the different spelling patterns over here. So I made it across the top. Those are the students in my class. And then over here was the test. And I put in parentheses how many points they could get for that. So again, I made it so that it was just, is it empty? Then that's green. They didn't miss any. Is it have a score or a value in it? That means they missed it. I turned it red. But then I put the numbers in there so you can see this student missed all 8 of the vowel team words, but they only missed, 3 out of 12 blends. So I'm more concerned about their vowel team knowledge than their blend knowledge. This was maybe just some tricky words. So you can see also this student missed 6 of the kind of spelling patterns that I'm looking at, which is a lot, but of the trigraphs right now, because I've only entered one, only 1 student missed that. So this tells me what to help this student with, or who needs the most help, and then the number of students missing tells me I need to really help with trigraphs. I need to really teach vowel teams or whatever it is, so that can help me kind of set that in there too. So there's just a lot of different ways that you can use this, and it's just a lot easier to have it be color-coded and to have the functions do all the adding and things for you too. So when I'm ready to print all these things, then I can just quickly get ready to go and do my math, and okay, I sit down to do all the report cards and I can do it down the row. Okay, for this standard, 2, 2, 3, 1, easy. Or if I need to give a grade for how they're doing in math. Okay, 2, 2, 3, and then this one, you have to do it that way too, but you can check really easily how it goes, and then it's just easy for you also to make your decisions on what you're going to teach next. So I hope that was helpful, and if you find this useful, then great, and you can pass it along and share it with someone else. Thanks for watching.